The Baptist Church. Glad that you can be with us this evening. Tonight is Current Event Wednesday. Next Wednesday will be Outreach Wednesday. So you can, if you join us on the live stream, obviously we will not be doing that next week. And for those of you members of Maranatha Baptist Church, if you could be praying regarding those who you might want to reach out to, that would be awesome. If you're not sure and you're a member of our church, there are a handful of people I can recommend to you to go visit that would just love to see your face and hear your voice and have a conversation with. So get with myself and I would be glad to share that information. I most likely will be over at the fire department in lieu of our upcoming first responders service on July the 2nd. Talking to those individuals and extending them an invitation to be a part of our program. That's hopefully the plan. Thankful for Mark Abel, Pastor Mark Abel. He's over there tonight telling them to save the date. And that way we have plenty of time for them to make the necessary arrangements to be able to participate. Hopefully, and another reason Mark Abel is the chaplain for the Hayesville Fire Department, so he will be here, hoping to have the mayor of Hayesville here, the police chief here, the fire chief here, and obviously the first responders as well, so you can be praying along those lines. All right, for this evening, follow the money. Not really a biblical heading, but what we're going to talk about this evening, it'll make sense when we are finished. What are investment firms doing with your money? How many in here have a 401k, a pension fund? Anybody have a pension? All right, we have a couple have pension. I have a 401k. I have another retirement. Where that money is being managed has a lot to do with what we're covering tonight. And so we're going to work our way through it. Tonight's current event. Why are all these corporations going woke? Could it be? So do you know what woke is? Woke is awakening to social, the shorthand definition, awakening to social and racial justice is being woke. So social and racial justice, as a rule, I'm sure there's a much more complicated definition, but for our sake tonight, that's what we'll work with. Why are all these corporations, for example, Target, with their putting in this merchandise in their stores? Of course, at this church, none of us have problems with or aren't concerned necessarily with Bud Light, but why did they have a transgender individual advertising? I've not seen the details, but people are telling me about Chick-fil-A going woke, social, racial justice. If all these companies, this is the question we're asking ourselves, had epiphanies that, oh wow, for years we've been socially and racially not equitable, doing injustice to these individuals? Or is there something more going on here? That is the question. And especially, is there something more going on with my pension fund? Does my pension fund, does my 401k have anything to do with these companies going woke? That's really what we want to answer. Our investments and such. We'll take a look at all this. But that's our current event tonight, because we covered some of this a little while ago when we talked about the Great Reset. And quite honestly, I was introduced to organizations and terminology I was not really familiar with. But it's amazing to me I think we did that 6, 7, 8 months ago. Over the past 8 months, how things have come to light to me of what really is going on in corporate America and all these companies going woke. And if you follow, that's why the title of the message is Follow the Money. Follow the money. The problem is a lot of that money we're following is your money, my money, policeman's money, firefighters' money, teacher union money, which they may or may not care, and so on. But we're going to take a look at. But before we do that, we're going to ground ourselves in the Word of God. I pulled out 4 passages, literally could pull out many, many more passages that have to do with money. Because the Bible speaks often and into some depth about money. In 1 Timothy 6:10, our first verse for this evening, "For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows." This past week, I spent a lot of time dissecting this verse. And I am not a Greek person. I'm not a Hebrew person. I have a Bible program. I see what the words mean. I look at other translations, and I try to make sense of every passage that we study. This would be, if you were to say, Pastor Todd, translate this verse for me, this is how I would do it. The root of a lot of evil is money. The root of a lot of evil is money. The other way I would put it is this: money has a lot of children. Most of them are evil. Money has a lot of children. Most of money's children are evil. Money has the power to impact my morality. That's what the verse is saying. My ability to distinguish between right and wrong, or better, to choose between right and wrong, can be significantly impacted by my view of money. This is what this verse warns me about. Your morality can be manipulated. How can my morality be manipulated? Multitude of ways. This passage is focused on one, your attitude towards money. Could somebody dangle money in front of my face and change my morality? And the answer is yes. At least the way you decide. Maybe you're saying inside, I'm still this way. I chose this because I needed the money. Well, you still chose to overlook your morality. That is a powerful statement. If people have the capacity to dangle money in front of your face and change the way you view things at the level of morality, that's power. And that's what this verse is saying. It also adds this last portion, and can pierce themselves through with many what? Many sorrows. Many hurtful things can come about simply by your view, or actually your love of money. So money, the root of a lot of evil is money. Money has a lot of children, and the majority of those children are evil, is how I would interpret this. And we're just trying to understand money from the biblical perspective. The second verse deals with my devotion. What am I devoted to? My love, my loyalty. What am I enthusiastic about? No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot be enthusiastic towards God and simultaneously enthusiastic towards money. You cannot be devoted to one and devoted to the other simultaneously. You can't do it, is what the Bible is saying. This puts people, it really paints a very clear picture. Either when it's going to come down to God or something spiritual and money. You can't serve them both. You will serve in the sense of loyalty, love, and enthusiasm. You will serve one or the other. When we combine these two thoughts, we see just how important your attitude towards money can be, because it really can shape you. It can really shape who you are and where you put your energies towards. Let's look at these. He said unto them, Jesus, take heed and beware of covetousness. Why? Why, Jesus, do I need to be aware of coveting things? Because, or for, your life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which you what? That's not your life. You don't need to covet, because your life is not, you are not the sum of the things the assets you have. That is not who you are. You're more than that. However, many people, especially men, view themselves, their self-worth, as the sum of the things that they have done or possess. What they have done with their lives. That's how they view it. I worked 50 years and blah, blah, blah. I worked 30 years and blah, blah, blah. Part of their self-identity is indeed the thing they did with their life work-wise. And Jesus is telling you, listen, your life's more than that. Your life is way more than that. For a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things he possesses, nor in the number of years that he worked at an organization. You're more than that. You're much more than that. But I'm to be aware of covetousness. Again, I can alter my life for the sole purpose of getting money. And we all know people who did this, who chose all the optional overtime at particular organizations. And sometimes you have to choose that because your family is in financial need. You've got to choose it. Or your organization forces you to do it. But there are some people who, instead of spending time with their family, which was an option, did not, because they went to work because they could get more money. Or they swallowed some of that morality in order to ensure their pension or their 401k stayed afloat. Again, just telling us the power of money. Proverbs 22:7, the rich ruleth over the poor. Who doubts that? Anybody doubt that? This is how I would word it. This is the American translation. The trillionaires, yes, with a T, because we're going to talk about 3 groups of trillionaires tonight. The trillionaires rule over the billionaires. So these management firms rule over corporate firms, the trillionaires over the billionaires, who then rule over the workers. Everybody get that picture? Because that's the picture we're going to paint tonight. The trillionaires over the billionaires over the people. And the borrower is servant to the lender, which is another message altogether. Tidying this up into a little package, We see the power of money over a person's being, their desires, their enthusiasm, and we see that it's not necessarily the spiritual, matter of fact, most of the time it's not, the wise or the prudent who rule over people. It's simply the people who have the what? The money. What if it's not their money, though? It's from you that made them a trillionaire. Doesn't matter. To my knowledge, there's no single individual called a trillionaire. But there are people who manage trillions of dollars. And what is going on in America today is they're acting like that money is theirs. And we'll see what we're talking about. So let's look at some of these trillionaires. You probably have heard of one of these names. BlackRock is by far the most asset-rich management firm in the world. So the latest statistics are these. There's 110 or 113 trillion dollars being invested in the world. That 113 trillion dollars, I can't even picture that in my head. Over 10% of that are in these three companies. BlackRock. I looked at my statement today for my retirement. Guess who my retirement is run by? Vanguard. I've not heard of State Street, but they're number 3. These three companies by far manage the most assets in the world. Trillions and trillions of dollars. So remember that little proverb? What's the little proverb we just looked at? The rich. There's nobody richer than BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Okay, the next little term we need to get down, ESG, environmental, social, and governance policies. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, you would think environmental, social, governance policies, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that might be seen in a social organization. You would not think you would see that in a business program. But that's what you're seeing. Woke, social and racial injustice as they perceive it. Everybody with me so far? Do I need to back up, answer any questions? Am I going too fast? Okay. BlackRock, I've just mentioned this. Vanguard, State Street are asset managers. They are not a corporation in the sense that they make anything. They manage assets. Their biggest customers, one of them is the Californian Pension Fund, the biggest pension fund in the world. Next, New York, their pension fund, second biggest pension fund in the world. Vanguard, mine. I got in the mail today and I thought, I'm going to talk about you tonight, and you're where my money's at. There are asset managers, the groups in the world. Whose money is it? It's your money. For example, I have a financial advisor, and I'm not going to say who it is. If I did, it's a regionally recognized organization. He is not managing he's managing my money in the sense that he's put it over into Vanguard's investments. So though I talk with somebody I have known as a friend since I've lived here, in Ashland. Technically, he's managing it, but he's put it in a huge management asset organization called Vanguard. Vanguard and BlackRock, with these trillions of dollars, you know what they do with their trillions of dollars? Your trillions of dollars combined. It's not your $1 trillion, or obviously you wouldn't be having them manage it, and I'm sure we'd have a bigger church. They invest it in corporations, Fortune 500, tech companies, small asset companies. They take your money and they go to other organizations and they put your money into their business, like Coca-Cola, other organizations, Chick-fil-A, Budweiser. They take it and they invest it in there. Consequently, they are a shareholder. And if you have enough shares of an organization, you get to help shape policy by going to shareholder meetings, correct? And so if you go to a shareholder meeting, there was a gentleman down in Cambridge, Ohio, who was the largest shareholder in an energy company. He was invited to the shareholders meeting. He was able to provide input to how he wanted to see the company run. Because if they didn't at least listen to him, what was he going to do with his money? Take it out. That hurts the company. So they don't cave into everything, but they listen to them because that's where they're getting their assets from, their money from these organizations. So you can imagine somebody like BlackRock, who has $13 trillion in assets, which is more than many world economies, puts a good chunk here, a good chunk there, they have a lot of money to put chunks in how many businesses? Tons of businesses. Consequently, they get a chair at the table to talk at shareholder meetings, stockholder meetings, the boards. They get to provide input with the threat that if you don't do what we desire, what's going to happen? Pull everything out. So we started this evening asking ourselves this question: why are all these companies going woke? They all of a sudden all had this grand awakening that they've been doing things wrong for years? Could be. Could be the new diversity officer, which now almost every organization has. And I'm not saying some of those policies were not needed. I'm just saying some of the stuff has gone way overboard. And the thing that bothers me, you're messing with people's morality. They're using these two things. You're going to start, now that you're aware of it, maybe you already were, but you start looking at reading articles or looking at your news media outlet, you're going to start seeing these phrases come up. You're going to start seeing BlackRock a lot more than you ever thought you were going to see. And Vanguard. I haven't seen State Street in my news feed, but I'm sure it's there. Environmental, social, and governance policies. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. You're going to start seeing this. Why? This is how they've set up these criteria in order for us to invest our trillions of your dollars. We want to see, for example, Coca-Cola or Target. We want to see you start putting out these clothes, because they're part of the diversity, equity, inclusion formula to determine if you get our money. We want to see your ESG rating. It's just like a credit score. Everybody has a credit score, right? And your credit score determines what? Lots of things financially. What your interest rate might be, whether you're going to get a loan from where? The bank. Are you too risky of an investment? Are you a decent risk? That's kind of going by the wayside now for corporations. Now we want to see your ESG number. Now we want to see your DEI number. Because if your DEI number and your ESG numbers aren't high, then we're taking our money out of you. Therefore, Target, you would be smart to put out some trans clothes. That will get your ESG and DEI score up, and we will be glad to keep our money in your corporation. This is what happened in Georgia. It's not just going with organizations. Do you remember Georgia wanted to have voter ID? BlackRock, or one of those three, went to Coca-Cola, who they are invested in, went to the Atlanta Braves. You ever heard of that organization? What did they do to the Atlanta Braves? Took the All-Star game and did what? Moved it. They went to Coca-Cola and they went to one other big, Delta, which is headquarters where? Atlanta. And they said, this is BlackRock. You fight this voter ID law or we're pulling our money. Coke, Delta, you do everything you can in Atlanta and you stop this or we're pulling our money. They went to Exxon and they said, listen, if you keep drilling, because we hate fossil fuels, we're going to stop. And whose money is it again? Whose money? It's your money. It's your money. It's the firefighters' money. It's the police department's money. They're taking it, and you start hearing advertisements, now you're going to know. They're taking your money and using it to implement woke policies. Now you're knowing what they're talking about. It's not their money, but they're using it to their benefit. Do these people really care about social and racial justice? A big, fat no. How do I know that? BlackRock has an investment group dedicated exclusively to that racially and socially just nation of China. Right? There's equity, China. Ain't no fairer social nation in the world than China. Really? You really care about that? No, you don't. If you really cared about it, your money wouldn't be there, would it? No. Now, if you're not sure about this, I put up this information. If you don't like Fox, then I'm not telling you to go to Fox. But if you go to Fox News, go to the search button, it looks like a little eyeglass, and type in the word the name Larry Fink. He is the current CEO of BlackRock. They have a video of him verbally telling people, listen, I'll paraphrase, you better start changing the way you do your social justice or we're going to financially hurt you. You can go look at it for yourself. Fox News, Larry Fink, type it in. Type in Larry Fink, type in BlackRock, and you'll start getting a whole list of news feeds. I should have wrote down the exact title of the article, but it's in there. A video of him saying this. Now, I found this quite interesting. The 4 industrial revolutions, because this is where we're going with all this. The first industrial revolution, going back to Larry Fink, I have an excerpt. What is the little pamphlet that that college in Michigan puts out? Hillsdale. Imprimis. I have the Imprimis that has a quote from Larry Fink basically telling people, you either do what we say or we're yanking our money, threatening them. I'll be glad to share it. So, to end with this, there have been 3 prior industrial revolutions. The first one was mechanical. I'm sure that's the late 1800s. The second one was electrical. The third one was digital. The fourth is that's why I put up this. Yeah, you guys can see that, right? The fourth is the convergence of existing and emerging fields, including big data, which would be who? People, Apple, Google, Facebook, AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum computing. Quantum physics blows my brain. I bet you quantum computing really blows my brain. Matter of fact, I don't even think I'll risk my brain by even looking at that. Genetics, nanotechnology, nanos, very small things. Okay, like car engines and cars that can fit on the head of a needle. And robotics. The foreseen results will be the merging of the physical, digital, and biological worlds. You see that? The merging of the physical, digital, and biological. Why should the biological world concern you? Because you are what? You are biological. Which presents a challenge to the ontologies by which we understand ourselves and the world, including the definition of a what? So, have any of you seen What is a Woman? What's the gentleman who put that out? Adam? Matt Walsh. I really would love to show this here at this church, and I would extremely ask everybody to come view it, but there's a few words in there that I don't appreciate, and I'm not bringing it to the church. But if you have Pure Flex, even if you don't, you need to watch that movie. And for a multitude of reasons, Christians need to be informed. For example, today, somebody that I'm friends with on Facebook put, banning books is blah, 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 blah. And the person who I know said, yeah, if you don't agree with it, then don't pick it up. But you shouldn't be able to ban books, and it's talking about the porn books. Remember last summer in the library? And I thought to myself, so you're against banning, right? Like banning people from Twitter? Like banning people from Facebook? Are you against that? Do you know of any of the studies that have measured the amount of depression 8 to 10 years after transition surgery? Anybody know those results? Why not? Because they're not shown you. Therefore, for not banning when it benefits who? Them. Therefore, banning when it benefits them. You need to know this information because ABC News, NBC News, CNN is not going to tell you this. You need to watch What is a Woman. I say that because it says the definition of a human being is in play. Matt Walsh went around the world and asked one simple question. What is a woman? Now, how hard of an answer would that be? Do you know how many people would not answer that question? Including our latest Supreme Court Justice. She said she was not a biologist. I didn't know I had to be a biologist to know what a woman was. Matter of fact, my eye can look in here and I can tell you right now, we have two ladies in the room. And I do not have my biology degree. Professors, Supreme Court justices, politicians could not look Matt Walsh in the eye and tell them what a woman was. Now, some people in the back country of Africa could do it. His wife did it at the end of the movie very easily. That's this whole game we're playing. We're going to redefine what even a human being is. Because then we can do any deviant behavior we want. Because the reason we let animals do certain things that we don't let human beings do is because we are the higher form of creation. They would say the higher species. But if we get rid of who a human being is, then we're going to open up all kinds of opportunities for human beings to do what? Anything they want. Anything they want. Because now they can't answer what a woman is. In 20 years, it could be they won't be able to tell you what a human being is. And then you Christians slap that morality right out of your hands. Because we're not human beings. This is where all this is going. Either Christians stand up or we're going to get run over. Somebody said in Sunday school, they just don't stop, do they? No, they don't. And the quicker we understand that, the better we'll be. What are you expecting lost people who don't care about morality or God? What do you expect them to do? Stop because it's wrong? They aren't going to stop because it's wrong. What are they capable? Anything. Look at world history. Human beings are capable of anything. And it's not stopped for the past several thousand years. What makes you think it's going to stop now? It will stop when Christ comes back and not a second before. And the way we stop it is the more people to be used of God to witness to people, to come to Him, is the way we stop it. Or we can't stop it, slow the tide. And we don't do it to slow the tide. We do it so that they can meet God and be one of God's children and live like He would want them to be. So this is what's going on. And they keep crossing lines, don't they? And they have finally figured out, they may slow down a little bit, they crossed the line of starting to mess with kids. And even Budweiser drinkers figured that out and said, you've crossed too many lines. And that's why people were so upset at the library. I'm not for homosexuality, but if it's two adults, you're starting to mess with the kids. You're starting to mess with the kids. Why don't some of these LGBTQ groups come out and say, listen, you drag queens, you don't need to get in front of a first grader's face and do what you're doing. There is no reason for that. You're not helping them one bit. But none of them do that because it's a package deal. But for our purposes, follow the money. Why are all these corporations going woke? It's simple. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street have your money, and they're using it for their purposes. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm in Vanguard. I'm like, I didn't even realize I was. I have opportunity to sit down with my financial advisor and talk to him about where I want my money. But I'm not saying pull it out. I'm not telling you anything. I'm just telling you this is what's going on. Why all of a sudden all these woke companies? This is the reason. Not only reason, but a big one. And we need to know what's going on. I guarantee you're going to start seeing these terms now that we've done this twice more and more often. Especially BlackRock. You will see that word come up. All right, any questions? Comments? It's a current event. We need to be informed. We need to know what's going on. We need to know this is where they're taking things. They want to dehumanize you. Right now, we only can't do a woman, but I guarantee you next, we won't be able to do a man either. And while we're on it, and I'm on a rant, why all of a sudden is it white supremacy? They have to get a term that they can label you so that when they tell people who to hate, they have a category for you. How did the Germans turn on Germans in World War II? How did they do that? They started young and started telling them, even the Jewish kids, your Jewish parents are dogs. So that when it came time to turn on them, did they have any problems? Did they have any problems? None whatsoever. Now, because everything now is white supremacy. White supremacy. School board meetings. You can't disagree with anything. You're a white supremacist. Why are they? So there is some animosity building, and we know who to direct it to. That can be another topic, but you start to see nothing's by accident in the Liberal Party. Not one thing. Anything is said deliberately and calculated. To that, I tip my hat to. They're way ahead of Republicans and conservatives. We need not fret. One day, the king is coming back. And he will rule and reign in righteousness, holiness, and justice. And those who don't want to be under that reign won't be here. There won't be anybody left who doesn't want to be in that kingdom, who doesn't love being in that kingdom, who doesn't love having their king, and who doesn't love what the king is doing in the kingdom. But until that time, we're to strive to follow him and to welcome others into the kingdom. And Sunday morning, we're going to talk about maintaining a proper attitude. I have to catch myself. As a matter of fact, I was studying for the message, went to my news feed. There was some thing went on in Maryland, and some school board member said something, And I could feel my face getting red, and I thought, I need this message more than anybody in our church. So we're going to take a look at it, because we're going to look at social issues and how the Bible says they're to be handled. Do you know how racism is cured? Jesus Christ. Ephesians is clear on that. There's neither Jew nor Greek, slave or free. We're all one in him. That's how racism is cured. So we're going to lay the foundation of maintaining a right attitude. All right. So, good current event. If you have other things you would like to see talked about once a month, we try to do it. I'm not always good at making that happen. Be glad to do it. If you have any questions, those watching or listening on the podcast or watching the live stream, you can reach out to me. I am not saying I have the answer. I do as much research as possible to make sure I can give an informed presentation, but my job as a pastor is not social issues, it's to pastor people. And therefore, I can't put more time than what's absolutely necessary to do these presentations, but I try to stay as informed as possible. And you may have questions I have no answer. Do not call me about quantum computing. I couldn't even begin to tell you what that means. I just know from talking to a gentleman who knew a lot about quantum physics, that was enough to blow my mind. All right. We're going to go to our prayer time. Those of you watching from the live stream, if you have nothing to pray about, pray for our country, obviously. There's a lot going on. Pray for our services on Sunday. Pray for those who are ill. Pray for those who need salvation. Pray that we would maintain the right attitude in our world today, and that Maranatha Baptist Church would go out into this world, our little part of it, and shine our lights. That's what we're called to do. Not say things under our breath, not have our blood pressure rise inappropriately high because we're so concerned about these issues. We should be concerned, we should be informed, but our answer is the truth and the only means by which we get out of this. It is Jesus Christ. And we need to go out into this community of ours, shine our lights. So you be praying along those lines. Thanks for joining us. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday morning.